It has been an awful start for Red Bull to the 2022 season. With both titles a long way away, improvements are needed very quickly if they're to cut some of the deficits. With the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix coming up, Red Bull need to improve their pace and reliability. There is hope thanks to a new big upgrade for Imola. It has been an awful start for Red Bull, and particularly difficult for reigning world champion Max Verstappen. The opening race was awful for Red Bull as two late fuel pump related issues caused both cars to retire late on in the race, leaving them more than 30 points on the table. The second race was much better for Red Bull. After an excellent fight with the title rival Charles Leclerc, Verstappen took the win, with teammate Perez finishing in fourth behind both Ferraris. But it looked like Red Bull were back on track as they headed down under. This was certainly not the case. Having qualified more than 3 tenths behind Leclerc, it was clear that Verstappen did not have the pace to keep up with the Ferrari. It got even worse on lap 39, when a fuel leak led to Max having to retire from the race with smoke billowing out the back of his Red Bull. Despite Perez finishing second, it was a bad weekend for Red Bull. Before we even get racing in Imola, Max Verstappen is a huge 46 points behind championship leader Charles Leclerc. A massive margin that's bigger than the gap ever was between Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton last season. The numbers are not much better for Red Bull. They currently sit in third in the Constructors' Championship, 49 points behind runaway leaders Ferrari. Mercedes are also 10 points ahead of Red Bull despite their lack of pace this season. A lack of pace is actually the much more major issue for Red Bull after Australia. While the reliability needs to improve, Leclerc was by far the fastest car on the track, and Verstappen could not keep close to him after the safety car period. Despite a second place finish, it was a terrible weekend for Red Bull, and they need some big changes quickly. It seems as though the main problems for Red Bull so far this season is the reliability of the powertrain. Issues with the fuel have already caused 3 retirements for Red Bull, and is uncharacteristic of the team. Max Verstappen only had 1 DNF caused by an issue with the car last season, and that was a puncture likely caused by debris. Red Bull and Honda have been very successful since the Japanese manufacturer's agreement to supply Red Bull with engines as a replacement for Renault. So it seems strange that with pretty much no regulation changes to the engine, Red Bull are struggling so much. But the team have faced another issue this season that they're looking to fix in Imola. With new regulations changes affecting the floor and aerodynamics of the car, huge redevelopment was needed by every team. It seems as though in this designing of the car, somehow Red Bull have made their car too heavy. It's understood that the RB18 car is one of the heaviest on the grid, and this is difficult for Red Bull. The heavy car will make the car much slower on the straights, especially compared to the lighter Ferrari. It put Red Bull on the back foot from the very start. So this upgrade will not be the first for Red Bull with the aim of reducing weight. At the Australian Grand Prix, the team featured a new front wing design that had some aerodynamic changes as well as some weight reducing changes. The changes to the front end plate are quite obvious as a lot of the plate has been reprofiled, including the leading and top edge. The more angular leading edge of the end plate has given way to a more gradual curvature, which reduces the length of the upper edge as Red Bull looked to tweak the airflow ahead of its front tyres. Added to this is the arrival of an S-shaped dive plane, which makes the rear section much higher than the older specification and is mounted closer to the trailing edge. All of this was put in place to adjust the airflow around the car, while also reducing the overall weight of the car. But this is not the last upgrade that Red Bull have bought this season, and it will also certainly not be the last, as Helmut Marko has alluded to recently. Despite Christian Horner denying that the RB18 was overweight in Bahrain testing, this does not seem to be the case after 3 races. A lot of information coming out about Red Bull bringing improvements to Imola is thanks to an interview from Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko to Servus TV. In this interview, he began by ranking how different engines were performing this season. Marko said Ferrari are ahead, Honda, or rather Red Bull powertrains, is in second place, and Mercedes unusually only in third. Seems a pretty accurate statement, as over the first 3 races, Ferrari have seemed like the fastest car on the grid, with Red Bull just behind. Mercedes' engine has been struggling this season, and the team can't find much pace in the car, mainly due to porpoising. But this will not necessarily be the case all season, as Marko says. In reference to Mercedes, Marko said, "But there is the opportunity for them to work on that until September 1st. So in this phase, we have to get as many points as possible." It is an illustration of how important early points are, as Mercedes will surely improve as the season goes on, making Red Bull's early season retirements even more difficult to take. Marko also spoke about the title leaders Ferrari. Helmut spoke on Max Verstappen's title rival Charles Leclerc, saying Leclerc is driving absolutely flawlessly this season, so it will be an exciting year. But some of the more interesting comments from Marko is about where he thinks Ferrari have found the advantage. Marko said, "The Ferrari is a car that is always fast, in all conditions regardless of the temperature of the tyre. Ferrari are gaining in the area of electrical energy. We hope that Honda will follow suit." There was of course also some discourse about the car's weight. Marko spoke about the RB18, saying, "Our car is definitely more difficult to tune, but we will lose some weight before Imola. That should give us a significant time advantage. Time gain, in other words." It is exactly the words that Red Bull fans will want to hear. The car is not as fast as a Ferrari, and a major upgrade is needed. Since this interview, there's been some more details about the changes to the car that will be made before the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. By the sounds of it, Red Bull are diving into their pockets for the upgrades. Red Bull are currently sitting at a weight of 795 kilograms, but are looking to shave 8 kilos off of this. This may not seem like much at all, but these upgrades have an estimated cost of around £1.7 million for the entire upgrade. This means that Red Bull are paying around £212,000 for each kilogram that they take off the car. This is a huge amount for such little weight loss, but the timing implications are huge, despite only taking off a small amount. The price of these upgrades is also much more important now than in previous years. With the newly introduced cost cap, the top teams cannot spend freely as they did in the past, so it means that Red Bull must see these upgrades as completely necessary. It has also drawn some attention from Ferrari. Scuderia team principal Mattia Binotto will be keeping a close eye on his rivals' spending. Red Bull are hoping that the upgrades brought to Imola can save them around 2 tenths per lap. This may not sound like much, but the gap between Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc in qualifying in the Australian Grand Prix was only 3 tenths, so 2 tenths can make a big difference for the team. With teams having 2 weeks between the Australian and Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, there will be many teams bringing upgrades this weekend. McLaren, Aston Martin and Mercedes are all planning on bringing upgrades to this weekend's race, but their impact is yet to be seen. Do you think Red Bull's Imola upgrades will be worth it? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments. If you like this video, why not check out this video, which is just as exciting and interesting.